Hello and welcome. So this is one of my 60 conversations for my 60th birthday. And today I have the wonderful, I'm going to say Suraj, and I'm not even going to attempt your other name because, I will probably completely butcher it, but you can tell us. I know of his gorgeous wife, Rani. I know her quite well. She is a really good friend of mine, but I haven't had many occasions to have conversations with Suraj. So this is a first for me, and I'm really, really excited to find out more about you and what makes you tick. So hello and welcome. Do you want to share what your name really is and tell us a little bit about you?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Deborah, for having me. So it's such a privilege. So I am known as Suraj Gogoi. So Gogoi is my
Gogoi,
surname.
Gogoi.
Yeah.
So I
So
didn't want to
it's
butcher it.
yeah, it's one of those very common surnames from Assam, Northeast India.
Ah,
See,
beautiful.
I'll ask you next time then.
Yeah.
um, did you want me to say what I do and all those things?
Yeah,
Yep.
tell us a little
Yep.
bit about.
Thank you. So thank you for having me again. I'm really pleased to be here. I work as a psychiatrist. So I've been a psychiatrist in the UK for about 20 years, 20 plus years now. I also work as a transformational coach on the side. And I work part-time in the NHS right now, doing local work mostly. I left substantive employment about 10 years ago, and just to devote more time to our private healthcare and coaching work.
Mhm,
So that's
mhm.
me in brief. And I'm also a father of two lovely daughters, and we've got
Yes,
two
yeah.
lovely pets as well, dogs.
I met one of your gorgeous daughters, and it was really,
Yes.
we met at the Birmingham event recently, and it was one of I saw your daughter, and she is just such a beautiful. I could see both you and Rani in her, and it was like, oh my gosh, she's got the gorgeousness of both of you. She was a lovely girl. So that was one of them, but I've only met that one in person, but yeah, a lovely girl.
Thank you.
So I know Rani talks a lot about her mental wealth, and she is really, I mean, she's out there changing the world around this. And you are a psychiatrist, so you obviously move in the same world as her. What do you see with everything that we know, the principles, the being movement, all of these things that we are a part of? How do you see that playing a part in the world of psychiatry and the world that you are so immersed in there? How do you see this making a difference?
Wow, I mean, a very good question. It certainly has made a huge difference in my life and the way I go about practicing psychiatry and helping people with mental health issues these days. It wasn't always like this, I used to be very much um, conventionally based in terms of my own thought process around psychiatry and psychiatric care, diagnosis and management. But when I first came to the three principles, that completely rocked my understanding, foundational understanding of mental health and human psychology. So, and my practice hasn't been the same since. I have become, I don't recognize the old me, the old Dr. Gogoi, the psychiatrist at all. The stressed out, the complaining, and the unfulfilled psychiatrist that I was at one point. But since coming to realize more of what drives us, what drives human behavior, and what causes us to experience the things that we do in life, and having a deeper, profound, meaningful, really an understanding that resonated quite deeply, really for me. And that brought back a lot of lost hope for
Mm.
me as a practitioner. And I was able to transmit that hope to my patients as well, to my clients. And out of that came some really beautiful, beautiful outcomes. I could see people actually improving for the first time in under my care,
Mm.
and they getting fulfillment, satisfaction, going back with something really tangibly sort of changed in their lives in a very sustainable way. Whereas before it wasn't always the case. We used to get bogged down by what we would call, revolving door problems of people.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, that completely changed my perspective, and that experience continues to this day. With more and more, the deeper I understand myself, the more I understand myself, better my foundation is, the better the outcomes for my people as well, for my patients and clients. So it's had a powerful impact, and we have been very lucky to have had some impact on professional colleagues as well, to change their points of view, to get them to be more curious about this new way of looking at things, and creating new possibilities and giving them a different dimension. So yeah, it's been remarkable, that journey, and we are so hopeful, because at one point we came to I speaking for myself, and I think Rani probably would say something similar as well, that we had got to a point of feeling so dissatisfied and feeling really hopeless about the whole thing, and our contribution to the world as psychiatrists. And we felt, well, we have nothing more to give, and we have tried all the conventional stuff, and this is not getting people outcomes, and which is not what you want as a therapist and a healthcare practitioner, because you want the best for your patients. Because it's like a surgeon saying, oh, I'm doing all these surgeries, more than 50% of my people are dying, and it's not going to leave you fulfilled.
not the outcome you want.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're not going to sleep well at night.
No.
So I think it wasn't sitting well, and I said, well, we don't belong here. We must rediscover ourselves, and so that sort of unhappiness, I suppose, and that sense of loss of hope at that point led us to be curious, to look beyond those kind of four walls of psychiatry and say, okay, what is out there for us to learn and for us to grow from? And then when we started being curious about that and asking those questions, we felt we realized that, okay, there's so much self-development we need to get ourselves, and we need to understand ourselves first to be able to really claim that we can honestly and authentically help other people. Whereas when we are training and to be psychiatrists, I mean, that wasn't one of the primary things. It was very much a case of, okay, these are things in a book, and once you master the concepts and ideas here and the information, and off you go, and you qualify, you get a certificate, and once you get a degree, and
you've got all the answers.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and here's your prescription pad.
Off you go.
Which on hindsight is very dangerous, I think.
Yeah.
It feels so incomplete now.
So what would you say if I was a colleague of yours who had no understanding of the principles of being, of this fact that you said, I need to know myself deeply before I could help others. If I didn't have that, and I was kind of maybe a burnt out psychiatrist practicing, what do you think is one of the fundamental things that you have seen differently that you would want me to see to give me the hope that you're talking about? What would you think that is?
Yeah, looking back, I've asked this question to myself several times. I said, well, what was it that was missing before, and what is complete now? So I think it probably boils down to the fact that as psychiatrists, I wasn't paying that much attention to root cause issues. It was more kind of midstream issues, like helping people through symptoms with their thoughts and behaviors, So it was very sort of, okay, behavioral modification, thought modification, and not really getting into the sort of nitty-gritty of, okay, no, let's go back and let's look at, you know, how these thoughts and experiences are being created, and what is this thing called thought. And so that bit was missing, and a huge other aspect. And when you start going upstream, and what you of course realize is, okay, there is a spiritual basis behind what we experience as, and this whole thing called the human experience. And psychiatry doesn't, in a conventional psychiatry, didn't see that at that point. At least it wasn't in the books. It wasn't in the Oxford textbook of psychiatry, or it wasn't talked about during training. You weren't mentored on that. So it was very much left for us to, okay, there goes my postman. Is that, sorry.
Oh, no, you,
sorry.
you said you might get something. It's absolutely fine.
Life.
We're back.
We're back.
This is it. This is real and raw, real life.
Real life. Yeah, exactly. Everything starts with family. Yeah.
I guess that's the nitty-gritty that we need to, seeing people as whole people. Whatever it is we're presenting with, whether it's physical, whether it's a mental thing or anything, we come as a package. We're not just this. And I guess a lot of medicine, in whatever way it is, it takes the thing that we turn up at the doctor's with in that moment, and take it as a separate thing to everything else.
Yes. Yeah, we are holistic beings, aren't we? Wholesome beings, and that's easy to forget when we go about looking things in just sort of limited dimensions, really. Say, okay, well, you've got these symptoms, let me look at those symptoms and give you a fix for your symptoms, and then you miss the whole picture of you know, how did those symptoms come about. I think, as I was saying, and that aspect, that outlook was missing in my the conventional approach that I was in before. And once you see that, you cannot unsee that anymore. That spiritual basis of all the symptoms and the problems and the issues. And what my experience was, and what many psychiatrists would also confirm, I'm sure, is psychiatric treatments, especially the biomedical pharmacological treatments, are very much focused on symptom management, symptom control.
Yeah.
They do not, they cannot treat the underlying reason, underlying cause, because the cause is very much spiritual. And there's nothing to be treated as such, but to be understood. So it was more, and if you're talking about symptom control, then you are essentially saying, okay, we are going to, the pharmacological treatments, the drugs are going to mask your symptoms. It's like saying, okay, you have got fever, take a paracetamol. It's going to bring your temperature down, but there can be an infection sort of lurking in your body somewhere that goes untreated, because psychiatry has kind of failed to see that infection underneath, if you like, within the person. And psychiatry doesn't have an antibiotic to treat that infection, you know. I can use that sort of analogy, really. So we were, very much prescribing paracetamol. So for, okay, you got depression, you got low mood, you got, phobia, take this. You got anxiety symptoms, take that. And a lot of psychiatrists are still in this illusion that they are actually doing really meaningful work in terms of, okay, oh, we are helping people with all of this, but yeah, at a very symptom control level. But you're,
and I guess if you don't feel great, it is nice to feel better. So it is easy to get pulled into that illusion that
Yeah.
But it is almost like it's a very short-term solution. And I guess if someone is really uncomfortable, whether it is physically or mentally, if we are really, really, really uncomfortable, it is nice to have that relief. But then in that relief, let's look at
Yeah,
something
absolutely.
deeper. Mhm.
And that's how it should be. And that's how my practice has changed now. So I prescribe very, very minimally.
Mm.
I don't remember the last time I prescribed an antipsychotic or antidepressant drug. A new prescription. It's probably been more than 5 years. And
Wow, that's
um,
amazing.
yeah, but sometimes I suppose you have a really big crisis situation and you're kind of get to the point of, okay, I have to help this person with the symptom they are presenting. But at the same time, knowing what I know now, then you take that opportunity to once their symptoms are relieved, if if the drug works, then you take the opportunity to point them to see the root cause really of what was behind that symptom in the first place, so that they don't have to keep on experiencing beyond that sort of cycle of suffering again and again. So I think that's and that's very fulfilling to be able to do when that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've been reading Linda Pettit's book.
Oh yes.
I don't know, yeah, recently, and I read in that she was talking about her and her first husband, and how, yeah, they were at that stage in life. They'd got a young baby. She was studying. He was studying. You know, they were very, very busy. Typical. And as we are, you know, in life, there's a million things going on. Like you said, family, the door knocks, whatever it is. We all have a lot going on, and it's very, very easy to have unhelpful thinking about our partners, our children, our bosses, our patients, our whatever, these people. And in this book, she got into a bit of a state around her husband. And at the time, she went and she had help with somebody. She spoke to somebody about the you know, where she was getting. But basically, they had no understanding. They talked about the problems that she was experiencing. You know, she said, my husband doesn't support me. I'm really busy. You know, I'm doing a million things, and he doesn't seem to be helping me in the way that he should. And it helped her to talk about that in the one sense in that moment. But that person didn't know to point her to anything, to say anything about that being a thought created reality, and there was something else to see. So could you share something about what difference you think it would make now to because I think that was the best we had at that point, all those then were certainly. What would you say if somebody is presenting to you, you know, with something like this and all of these problems, and you know, I can't be okay because this is happening and this is happening and this is happening. What do you think it is that we see with understanding ourselves more that is incredibly helpful in those moments, rather than just sort of going, yeah, your husband doesn't support, or your wife is, you know, your wife could do something more helpful, your kids could be better whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's that, isn't it? I mean, people come to psychiatric services, and not saying everyone, but huge proportion of them come with this sort of outside in story about their problems, and they would say, okay, because of X, Y, Z outside of me, my life is this way, and I'm feeling this way, and I need you know, need to block this out. You know, need to block out my feelings, and that's how they get, you know, prescribed all this stuff, or, you know, prescribed therapy or whatever that may be. Not saying it's right or wrong, that's the way it is. And I find I found in my experience that really, if the system sort of nods and says, okay, yes, I mean, it's awful, this and that, you know, things outside of you shouldn't be happening, and your relationship is you know, pretty rough, and your children are, you know, misbehaved, and this is why school is you know, unsupporting, and whatever it may be. and we are sort of colluding with and reinforcing their sort of that very misunderstood way of looking at their own experience, that outside in, and unwittingly, very innocently, you know, practitioners do that, and in doing that, we take away more control from the person themselves, their sense of ownership, their sense of responsibility. That sort of locus of control is firmly placed outside in the external. But when a practitioner can come from, you know, this understanding of, no, actually your life is inside out. What you're saying is, you know, your internal creation, and that's happening to you. And but the fact is, you don't realize it. You are not aware of it. Let me help you become more aware of it, so that you can exercise more control of this experience. And I think that's powerful, because it gives them back that sort of lost control. And I found that that completely changes the dynamic when you can say, no, you have control here, but you are lost at, because of the misinformation, or because of the, you know, the way you are conditioned to accept your symptoms and see your psychological issues, and that's okay. But it doesn't have to be this way going forward. Let's, you know, let's look at like what's kind of holding you back. What's holding you back from? What are the barriers to you seeing this for yourself right now? And once we can help remove those barriers, then they get to see that, okay, yes, this is an internal creation. And I think that, you know, in some people who haven't sort of come to that understanding themselves, or haven't got that wisdom themselves, they can feel like, okay, that probably will freak my patients out or my clients out. I need to be the rescuer here. I need to fix those issues. So I think that's very, you know, a misguided fear, misunderstood fear. In my experience, and I've tried this, you know, I've been living this way of being for the last 15 years or so, and it empowers people, and that's the most impactful thing you can do as a therapist, as a practitioner, to give back this sense of control, which is true. You know, it's in their control, and then they take ownership of that, and they see that, oh, everyone else is in control of their own creation as well. So I don't need to be responsible for the way my husband is feeling, or my children are feeling. You know, the other person across the street is looking at me or judging me this way. I'm not responsible for that. I'm responsible for me. And I'm creating my way of being every single moment. And if I'm not going to take ownership of that, if I'm not going to take control of that, it's been created by default anyway. So do you want to, you know, live life with your default settings, or you want to customize it, you know, according to, you know, the direction you want to go in? So yeah, I want to live a, you know, with my custom settings, really.
I love that. I love that. That is such a good way of seeing it, isn't it? And how many of us, you know, with all our devices and everything we have these days, we customize it, don't we? We want it
Absolutely.
our way. And if we pick up someone else's phone or computer or a different one, it's like, well, where's that? Oh, that button's not in the right place if we're doing something else.
Yeah.
So we definitely have our own knowing of how we would like things to be. So yeah, I love that. So will you talk a little bit more about that? Because I know that was what was going on at the last event where we were
Birmingham, yes.
This whole creation of how we would like to be out in the world, taking responsibility for ourselves and how we feel. So yeah, I would love you to share what you're seeing around that, and how that is being impactful and helpful in your work.
Yes. No, it's been absolutely impactful, because I felt, coming from the three principles understanding, for a number of years, I still felt like, okay, there is a final piece of the puzzle I still can't find, you know, whereas it's well and good to say, oh, I understand this now. I'm okay, there's a spiritual basis for everything that I experience. but I still needed a prescription. So what do I do with that? How does it translate to things my real life experience and things that I want to create and have and do and have in my life? And so I still felt okay, there was a bridge I wasn't able to cross.
Okay.
And so it needed I don't get me wrong, I mean I really got a lot of experience and new understanding, and that was good because it really felt good. I had all those sort of good moments, feelings, and my psychiatric practice changed as well. But there was still this sort of gap between, okay, insight and action, insight and action. Okay, you've had this insight, but yeah, how do I translate that to action that creates to manifestation of what I want in life? So just sitting with that understanding and not getting out of bed is not going to make things happen in my life. Yeah.
No, we're very human, aren't we? I mean,
Exactly.
I love to be human. I love doing things. I love being out in the world and doing so. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
So talk to me more about
Yeah, I think again it was probably my misreading of what that meant, because I would read other people sharing about this and say, okay, this is a lovely understanding and feeling, and you don't need to do anything. It's just you bask in that the warmth of that feeling, and life is going to be different. Well, it was different, but it wasn't that different. I still had issues at home and relationships, and things like that, with my parenting, and some of the challenges both my wife and I had experience with that on that front. We still felt like, okay, there was something more to see here, and for us more to see and live into. So that again, when you are looking for things, you find things, and if you're not looking, you don't find things. They may be right in front of you. So,
good things and bad things. If you're looking for
yeah,
them, you find them.
exactly. It's the framework you go with, isn't it? And then
Yes.
you open a book, and it's the second time you see things that you missed the first time because your perspective has changed. You come with a different lens. So that's what happened. I think that led to us coming across non-duality first of all, and going to be reintroduced to some of the sort of spiritual teachings of ancient India, because we come from there, and it was right under our noses.
Come on, yeah. At least I've got
Exactly.
the excuse. I've never even been to India, so at least I've got that.
Yeah, it was literally sort of a coming home experience, actually. Yeah. So that kind of added a new dimension to what we had picked up through three principles.
Yeah.
And that kind of reinforced some of that. We could go back to reading The Missing Link or The Enlightened Gardener and say, wow, this makes sense. He was actually talking about this in that.
Yeah, it was.
Whereas
It was
exactly.
already in there, but it wasn't definitely for me. In some ways, it is the wording and the way it's like, oh,
Yes.
right, yeah. There's something that misses.
Exactly. And some of these things gain more clarity when you're looking through the rear view mirror. And so okay, now it makes sense. It only made sense because we were at that point further down the line in our journey, exploring non-duality teachings of ancient India, and some of the spiritual teachings in the Upanishads and the Gita. So that was really transformational for me, and it set us on a different path and to explore more. And then comes along the ultimate experience and that book, The Ultimate Coach. And that was, again, by sheer accident, actually. Sheer accident.
Okay, tell us about that. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. I think it was yeah, I don't remember. Was it one of Steve Chandler's books actually? I don't remember what the exact book was, The Prosperous Coach or something or the other. I picked that book up, and again, we were developing, Rani and I were, at that stage of through COVID, we had developed an online practice and done some online courses and trainings and so on. And we were looking to kind of scale that. So we were consuming a lot of stuff in terms of reading. So Steve Chandler's book was one of those I saw online and say, okay, well, I think it was through Rich Litvin or somebody's sharing it. Came across Steve Chandler. And Steve Chandler we know from the Three Principles, community as well. And so in that book, he mentioned about Steve Hardison as his coach, or some in that book. And I was saying to her, I was in bed at night and reading that book before going to sleep, and said something to Rani, and I said, "Oh, do you know, this looks interesting." And she said, "Oh, I saw that in a coaching for the Three Principles community that Ankush has on Facebook. I wasn't a member of that book, so I didn't know." She said, "Oh, yeah, he was talking about an event coming up in London." So something clicked in her, and she was like folding clothes or something, and she's passing going. I said, "Really? Okay, let's check that out." And I think whether it was Rani or me, the next morning, following morning, not sure. We say, okay, oh, okay. And it looked very mysterious, really, and say, okay, oh, if this is the event, but to come to the event, to qualify for that, you have to first will have had to go through the book. That's when you qualify and say, okay, oh, wow, this is a big mystery. And then research about Steve Hardison, and there's nothing online.
There is a bit more now, I think, since
Yes, there's
since
no
then,
videos, there's no
it's
interviews. Yeah, you couldn't
it's
find
a whole
anything.
it's a whole replay of Sid, isn't it? When I first came
Yeah,
across principles, I mean, now there's a lot more out there,
of course.
a
Yeah,
lot more people, but
yeah,
initially when I came across the principles, it was just like there was nothing. It's like, who is this guy?
yeah.
He's nobody. He's a nothing. Nobody knows about him. And it's a similar thing, wasn't it? Steve Hardison, it's like, who is this guy? You can't find anything. And I think that is changing. If you Google it now, obviously,
Absolutely.
huge
Of
Facebook
course.
group.
Yeah,
There are more. There's been Mumbai event, the
yeah.
London
That's
event, the events in Arizona, and now obviously the Birmingham event. So it's getting out there, I think. But yeah,
yeah. Now there are so many impactful, lovely interviews
having a
online.
beauty,
Yeah.
which is really, really good to see, I think, with the work
Yes.
that
Yeah.
both of us are up to. It's so good to see that these things are being shared and having an impact. So what was the impact of going to the London event? Were you
Yeah, London event was amazing event. Of course, we both, Rani and I, had read the book. I listened to it on Audible, and I can, which was lovely because it's a huge book.
Yeah.
And we didn't have much time actually because we just got it a week or a couple of weeks before the event. So
Oh wow.
there was pressure. So played in 1.5 times speed, and I was able to go through Audible.
I love it.
And got through the amazing experience, and got more curious. Of course, we had bought the tickets to go to London. We had committed ourselves, and we're going there. And same, yeah, joined the Facebook group then for that London event. And that really opened, being at the event, and really opened my eyes to okay, this is what was missing. This is what was missing. That final piece of the puzzle I was looking for. That creation of being. That no, your life is not going to change until you take charge of your being, your state of being at any given point. You have to take control of your creation. Whatever you want to create, manifest in your life. Unless you take control, it's not going to happen. It's going to, you're going to end up with manifestations that you don't desire, that you don't want, the things. So, and then you can, no point sort of looking back and complaining that, okay, life has been unfair and this and that. Because you felt, okay, just sitting on your hands with this spiritual understanding is going to manifest the good things in your life. It's not going to, it doesn't work that way. So I think then that sort of thing clicked, that yes, there is a true being that you are, that is constant, that is already made, ready-made. You are born with, innately gifted to you. You don't have to go back and tinker with it and, try to make it any better, because you can't. But you've got to create with, you've been given all that you will ever need in terms of your own capacity to create and design the life you want to live, with all the good things that you want, be it health, relationships, wealth, status, power, whatever people need, whatever that may be. That will only come from your creation. And that was like a light bulb. I think, again, this is one of those things, once you see it, you can't unsee.
Yeah.
And that again was, and I'm sure it probably was for you as well. And again, it gave me so much more agency and control. I was like, oh wow, I need that. So, my experiences are not, they don't need to be left to circumstances and things working out. Oh, life is going to work out the way it will work out. But no, I have got some choice here. I've got, yes, there is destiny, and then there's all that, but I can choose how I walk that path of destiny. So I think that made all the difference for me. And yeah, what was it like for you? I'm curious as well.
The first event that I went to was the Birmingham one, the recent one.
Yeah,
that was the
yeah.
first. But I absolutely know at the last conference, the way that Rani showed up. She'd been at our conference 2 years previously, and then she came, and I'd watched the growth and the difference in her, and I read the book, and to me it was a very similar, it didn't feel to me as if these things are massively different in a way. To me, the being and what it's pointing to, and what it feels, I can hear and feel the work of Byron Katie in there. I can feel Sydney Banks's work, the work of Abraham Hicks. All of those things seem to be contained in all of these.
Yes.
But for me, I guess it is the aspect that they seem to focus on quite a lot. And it seems to me Sydney Banks focused in one area particularly, and being focuses in slightly a different area. So actually, and I really saw that, Rani and I actually had a moment at the conference, and we were like, wow, when you actually bring these two things into the room, what's Sydney Banks and all of the spiritual teachings that you've talked about, the Indian ones, non-duality, all of these things, what they are pointing to when you bring those. And even the Bible, I've read in the Bible.
Oh, yeah. I love the Bible. Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite books.
Yes.
And yet, throughout the Bible, it says continually, do not live in fear. And it talks, I am, I am, a lot of the being movement is a lot around I am statements. Well, I am statements are absolutely, they're not a new thing that Steve Hardison, and I not invented, for a second do I think that he is saying, but they're not a new thing. They have been around for eternity. And so bringing these aspects together, actually, focusing on what is that, and looking what does this being, what does I am mean, what was the Bible to? And Steve, a little bit to me, when I came across Sydney Banks, it felt like he was putting into ordinary, everyday language things that spiritual masters have been saying, in using words that I didn't understand, and putting, it's the same. It's a little bit like they'd been saying the exact right thing, but they'd been speaking in French and I was English. It's like they're absolutely saying that, but can you say it in English, please, so that I can understand it? And it felt like Sydney Banks said it in ordinary, everyday language. And it's like, oh, that's what it means. And I think that's what the Being Movement, Steve Hardison, the book, Amy, all of this, they're putting these I am, that everything. When you read the Bible, sometimes it can be very confusing until you get familiar with the text and familiar with how it is. And it feels like Steve Hardison has taken the Being Movement, whatever, has taken a section of this and put it into language that
accessible.
An accessible language. And it feels like, oh gosh. And so we bring all of these teachings, like when we talk about who are we being, we're being those teachings that we have studied, non-duality, Byron Katie, all of the spiritual masters, the Bible. We bring all of these things. What do we get from all of them? We can bring that to, because like you said, there is a deeper truth of who we are, a oneness that we are all connected to, that we never change. Then what part we play in that, like what we do on that screen, it comes from us. And it's like, what do I want to be a victim anymore? For me, my story was I was a victim for many. It's like, oh yeah. And people would even say, well, it's not your fault, which it's not. And it's not, this isn't about blame or fault. But equally, if I took that to mean, oh, well, there's just nothing, you have no control over that. What I can really, really see now is I was always going to be abused in that way because of who I was being. That's who I was. That's what I was putting out. That's what I was creating. And seeing, wow, I can create something entirely different to that. And I guess that is exactly the same when you are with your patients. You can see innocently and accidentally and not at all about any blame is pointless. But if we can take response and say, okay, innocently and accidentally, I created this, I can create something different. A place. So I do think there is a little bit of a kicker to take. It's like, oh, that was me then, right? Okay, all right. But that means if we can see that was me, that means I can do something different. And I definitely think that the Being Movement has given me more words, more agency, as I said, both to share that with people, to help that make sense to other people, and to make sense of that myself and be, I can become a conscious creator rather than a default creator. And certainly, some of this, and I think this is true of all of us, some of the things we create by default are amazing, but some of the things we create by default is a little bit like being a gardener, and we've gone and sprinkled these seeds, totally forgotten we've sprinkled them, and then these things come up, and some of them we're like, oh wow, that's great, I love that, and others of them are like, whoa, why did I put that in my garden? Not what I want at all.
No, I love that. I feel our if we leave things to default, it's the default is often influenced by your past experience and your anxieties about the future, isn't it? And many people, and some of us are lucky to have come through a lovely past experience and really happy childhood and family experience and no major problems. But there's a significant number of people who have come through a lot of trauma as well. Experiences that still haunt them. And that's when you want to take charge of that creation process and not leave things to chance. And as you said, I was reminded while you were sharing that what Nick Smith, one of the speakers, said, wasn't it? We are all giants. We are all born giants. But we have been conditioned to wear this sort of cloak of smallness, and that's what we need to get rid of. We just need to get rid of these lies that made us to believe that we are small, whereas in fact there is giantness concealed within us. So it's mostly a case of, giving up things that we have taken on through conditioning, through our upbringing, through the child prison system, or the school system, some people call it.
I like it.
Yeah, so we need to be aware of those. We need to wake up from our drowsiness about all of those things.
Yeah.
And get our eyes wide open.
And I definitely think that the principles are really great at pointing us to, like you talked about our childhoods, and some people we all have different experiences in our childhood, but ultimately when you look at, it's not even the thing that happens, it's what you think about it. And the principles are really good at showing us that, because some people can come through what outside would look like huge trauma and be relatively unscathed. Other people can go through a childhood that looked to all intents and purposes that they had everything a child would need, food and money, good clothes, good, two parents, all of the things that we we need, and yet come out of that traumatized. And I think the principles really explain to us that it's not, we are not affected by our experience, we are affected by the thinking that we attach to that experience. And so, pretty much anything can traumatize us if we think about it that way. And you can really see, in one sense, that's where mental illness, when we look at that and see it, it's like, wow, this normal thing's happening. You want to go out of your front door and you can't go out of your front door. That is traumatized thinking about something, or crazy thoughts about something relatively normal. And so you really see, walking out of the front door is walking out of the front door, apart from how you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so affected by illusions.
Yes.
So affected by it. It's crazy. It's crazy. Because our past is not here. Our past is not real, right? But so many of us are affected by the past, and still can't let go of that past. So which is tragic. And again, the future, anxiety is about the future. It's not real now. It's not happening now. But that illusion really affects us, our way of being, our happiness, peace of mind right now. And we have to wake up from those dreams that which keep us trapped in this very default state of being, and we can only do that by exercising choice. I like what Steve Hardison points to. He says, you're never not creating your being, so you've got to exercise more choice and control. And you create every single moment. You're creating every time. Be mindful. And you're creating through conversations. You're speaking out what you want to create. Because we are doing a conversationally all the time. We are having a conversation with ourselves in our heads, or with our partners, with our families, and with other people. We are creating our being all the time. And the more we are mindful of that and mindful of the language we use, I think the better for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And then what I love about when we bring in the spiritual aspect, that deeper truth of who we are, my experience of this has been that awareness of these things. It is that the doing part. There absolutely is doing here, but there is not, to me, we don't have to be on red alert. We don't have to be like, oh my gosh, this is all down to me and I have to do it. There is a beautiful balance here.
Yeah.
That I see. It's like step up, put your hands up and say, yeah, I'm ready to do this. And it's
Yes.
almost like then a ton of that work gets done for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like books appear, events happen,
Yeah.
people show up in your life. It is just amazing what is done for you. And to
Yes.
me, it's almost like a willingness to say, yeah, I'm ready to look at this. I'm ready to say, yeah, I am the creator of my experience. And I'm not going to judge and blame myself or anyone else, but I am ready to create something different.
Yeah.
And it feels like we don't have to do absolutely, it's a little bit like gardening. When you think of gardening, we prepare the soil, we plant the seeds, but there's a ton of that happens that we have nothing whatsoever to do.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
we water it and all of this stuff grows. And I think this is the same. We need all aspects of this. When we realize that we are spiritual beings, and this isn't about hard work in that sense.
Yeah.
And in one sense, the hard is admitting, putting your hand up and saying, I'm ready to take responsibility. Yeah, I am the creator of my experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I love that. And for me, the way I see it is hard work was before, when I was trying to be somebody else, other people.
Yes, a people
Was
pleaser.
Yeah, being me is easy.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be easy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because trying to be other people that, oh, I have to fit in and I have to do that, do this because this is how it should be, it ought to be, or I want to be like them, I want to, be accepted. So that was bloody hard.
Yeah.
But being you is, oh, I have to give up stuff that I'm not. And then, as you said, once you come from that place of who you already are, and then you have an intention of how where you want your life to be, what you want to create, the in between thing, the doing shows up because
Yeah.
it flows through you.
Yes. And it's such easy doing because it's what
Yeah.
you want to do. That I
Yeah.
think that's it. Like hard in my head, like if we say the words hard work, that's a whole ton of stuff that I don't want to do that I've got to force myself to do.
Yeah.
I remember when my son was small, he was like 3, he was really little, and he wanted to ride his bike. He wanted to take his stabilizers off and ride his two-wheeler bike. And I was like, I haven't got time to help you. And he's like, I want to do it. I want to do it. So I just took his stabilizers off, and I thought he was in the garden and I was in the office looking out the window. And I just thought he'll fall over a few times and give up. And at the weekend, when I've got some time, we'll do this. And he spent the entire day literally picking his bike up, getting back on it, falling off, picking it up, getting back on it, going to the top, trying everything, playing.
Yeah.
And in one sense, you could say he worked hard.
Yes.
But there was such a joy in what he was doing.
Yes.
And if I'd have brought him in and said, no, don't do this, just sit on the sofa and lie down, he would have been devastated.
Yes.
It's kind of like that, isn't it? When we are doing something that we are really wanting to do, that we are called to, there was such joy in what he did.
Absolutely.
And that to me isn't hard work, but we can mistakenly say he worked hard and he did in one sense, but
Yes.
it's that kind of that distinction, I guess, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. It looks hard to others.
yeah, maybe, yeah. Like, oh my God,
Because, yeah, because your son was doing his assignment. You see, he was, life was assigning him this project that he needed to learn this, and it was happening through him. The doing was happening through him, and he was in that flow. He's not, and his personal state of being was in alignment with that.
Totally, yeah.
If it was in misalignment, then you'd say, okay, no, I'd rather not do that. I would rather go and sit and watch something on telly or something at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
And go for the easier route. That's what we do as adults.
Yeah, don't want to do that. Don't want to do that.
Don't want to do that. Yeah, exactly. We don't do it anymore. And but yeah, that's a beautiful example. And I absolutely agree. And the doing here is informed by your being. And the doing is that missing link between you being who you already are and you having what you want to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And unless that doing is added to the mix of ingredients and part of the recipe, you're not going to have the final cake.
No.
So that's how life works. And that's how it is. And I think, so it's a be, do, have. It's a simple principle. Be, do, have.
Yeah.
If you want to have what you want to have, you've got to do what it needs to be done, what needs to be done. And for it to be able to do, you need to be who we need to be able to do that.
And when you start to genuinely move away and uncover who you are,
Yeah.
it is just like my son riding his bike. It is so naturally what we want to do. And one of the things that I really, really love about the being movement is I think all of us want to be in loving relationships. And one of the things that I really love is how much acknowledgement and love of each other is that community.
In the community, yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and how, you know, like you say, if you and Rani want a beautiful relationship, then look for the beauty in each other. You know,
Yes.
my
Yes.
part is, and how much, and actually we have been taught to moan and complain and oh, you know, Russ doesn't do this or whatever, Rani doesn't do this. But when we actually look at who we truly are, who we want to be, there is such beauty in acknowledging our partners and telling them how amazing they are and doing that. And oh, that is one of the things that I just love. It's like, yeah, I much prefer just being, rather than complaining about someone, just telling them how amazing they are.
No, absolutely. And I see that in plentiful from you, and you're so generous and giving and loving, and this is really inspiring, and you know it touches my heart when I see that. And you're absolutely right. I mean, the love that we want in our life can only come from our creation.
Yeah.
And relationships cannot be left to chances. Relationship at home, Rani and me, it's not easy. If we leave it to chances, it's going to go down the drain. I mean, you have to create the loving relationship every single moment.
Mm.
So, and I believe that's true for every good relationship examples that we can see out there, because they put in the work. Because you don't get to have a lovely looking garden unless you look after it.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen.
Yeah.
Wishing and it happens. No, it's not like that. I mean, you've got to put in the work. You've got to tend to it. You've got to acknowledge each other and create the love, and remind each other about how whether that I love her and she loves me, and if not in words, in actions. And yeah, and absolutely, it's again, we're never not creating, so we will have to create whatever we want. Loving relationship, create that. Peace, joy, you want happiness, create that. Wealth, yeah, create value for other people, then wealth comes to you. It's simple, really. It's not easy. I can say that for sure, but it's simple. It's not deep. It's simple.
Oh, I have really, really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much. That has been wonderful. And I am so hopeful for psychiatry and anyone who finds himself in yours and Rani's practice. There is so much hope with what you are sharing and what you're doing in the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your acknowledgement, and yeah, thank you for spending this time with me as well.
So if people want to know more about your work, what you do, where can they find you? Where would be a good place to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, we are on social media. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook as well, and also it's going to be on TikTok. Famous last words. I'll be on TikTok.
Look out for that.
But there's a website, drsurajsuraj.com. So they can find both Rani and myself and learn a bit more about our work. We're in the process of registering to set up a holistic psychiatric clinic in London.
Wow.
So
Oh
that
my God. Yeah.
hopefully we'll be able to launch at some point this year. So
Brilliant.
yeah,
Brilliant.
watch the space.
Oh yeah, you guys are doing great work. So any of that information should be below this video anyway. But again, once again, thank you so much for your time today. It's been amazing. I've really
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mm.
Bye.